Patient come with time. Just keep on believing. Yeah, we got to stay prayed up when it don't feel like enough. Hold on to the grind. Come renew your mind, yeah. Let's talk. Let's talk. Hang together. Let's talk. Let's talk. Hang together. You gotta know.
What's up, YouTube family? This is your girl Rayla, back for another week of Let's Talk, where we encourage, empower, and enlighten. For all of my OGs, thank you for joining me yet again. And to all of my newcomers, before you leave, before this video ends, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys all so much for joining me today, y'all. We are continuing this train. If you have been following me for the last 2 weeks since the start of February 2022, y'all would know that we have been in the Four Corners Project series, y'all. It has been so good, so juicy. I'm praying and hoping that y'all have been enjoying it so far. And of course, if you have not watched the last 2 weeks worth of videos, make sure to go back so you guys are caught up and are following us on this train, on this road of discussing sex. Yes, we're discussing sex, and it's been such a good topic. I've learned so much. I've come into revelation even in my own personal life, and that is actually what we're going to get into today. So the first week we discussed the beauty of sex, which was awesome. Last week we had a great discussion talking about nothing casual about it, and this video is called Let's Get Naked. Now, I'm not taking off any clothes, so no worries. What I mean by let's get naked is the time to be transparent, the time to be honest. I know there's a lot of things that I've spoken to you guys, a lot of clarity that I've given, that I'm so thankful to even come into contact with on my own. However, I don't think any of it will be worth it, especially from the speaker, if there was no transparency, if there was no honesty, if there was no, hey, but I've been there too. Even though I know this great information and I know the beauty of this thing, and I know it's not just casual, I've had my struggles too. So this is going to be something very similar to what I did not too long ago. It was a video called The Dark Shades That Bring Out the Beauty, something on those lines, and I discussed 10 things. I listed 10 things I did not want you to know. So it's kind of going to be like that. I'm really going to put myself out there this video. I'm learning the beauty of being able to do that more often. I find that people watching can receive healing that way, and if more people with the platform, it doesn't matter the number of people, if we have a platform, we have to use our voice. We have to use our experiences. We have to use our testimonies and the things that we've been through. So it wasn't all for nothing. You know, I believe a lot of things we go through in life, you know, we can take it upon ourselves and think that it was just because of a bad decision we made, which could be true, or maybe because life just works that way and life has never been easy for me. But baby girl and baby boy, when you really look at your life and look at all the things you've been through, you don't really know how much healing, how much camaraderie, how much connection you have with other people out there who may be experiencing the same thing, and because they don't have anybody speaking up about it, or they don't have anybody telling their testimony about it, they're too ashamed, or they feel guilty, or they feel less than because they don't have anybody to relate to. And so hopefully the information and the stories that I share with you today lets you know that you're not alone. So again, as I said, today's video is going to be much about myself in this very intimate part of my life. No worries, I won't get too graphic, but of course we are talking about sex, so I am going to be very transparent, but you're not going to get too graphic, okay? So let's get into this. I'm going to start with my first moment that I can remember in my life of sexual curiosity, when that started for me. So the first moment in my life that I can remember ever being like really sexually curious, and at the time it was weird because I was so young, I didn't even know that that's what it was. I just knew it was kind of naughty. You know how you catch kids doing something they ain't supposed to be doing, and they know they're not supposed to be doing it, but I just didn't know how big the door that I was opening was. Okay, I didn't know very much. I was just curious. My curiosity was aroused. And I was about 5 to 7 years old, I would say. And it's gonna be interesting how this happens. So I had my own TV, and it was like a 16-inch. It was really, really small. But I had a TV, and we had cable. And for those of you who know, on VH1, they would play these shows. Some of them, Flavor of Love, starring Flavor Flav, right? They had one, I believe, on Bret Michaels. He was like a rocker, right? Musician. And that was called Rock of Love. I watched these shows. And they only came on, for the most part, late at night. So I would watch these shows. And if you watched these shows back in the day, you would know that a 5 to 7-year-old, I can't remember how old I was exactly, but it was around that time, you would know that a kid had no business watching these. But I was. And so, again, if you know these shows, you would know that they were very provocative in language, in things that the women would do to their love person, Flavor Flav or Brett. They would get very frisky, and even sometimes with each other, especially, when they got drunk and were doing all these unruly things. There was a lot of stuff on the show that was going on that I shouldn't have been watching, but I was, and therefore made me curious in that area and in that way. And so what that made me do is want to explore this curiosity. And honestly, my first sexual curiosity and activity was with the girl. And they would be people that I just knew from church. Yeah, yes, the pastor's kid, and I had friends, and we would do things. And it was very, very, what some would consider PG, but that was really the first time where that part of me was aroused. And of course, it all came out. I got in trouble for it. And I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it was something that was for older people. I just didn't know the gravity and the weight at the time. And I find that the enemy, because he is the prince of the air, right? And anything and everything that we see here, whether it's music, television, that was the channel, that was the gates. Remember I talked about gates when we discussed Astro World? That was a gate that was open to me at that time. And it was a gate of promiscuity, a gate of exploring my desires at that time, homosexuality. The enemy, he's not stupid. Satan is not stupid, and he uses his devices pretty well. And there are a lot of ways that gates can be open, especially to younger people, because I was one of them. Whether it was through a TV show, it could be through someone touching you inappropriately. It could be, I remember I had a friend of mine who battled with their sexuality because they were asked in the 2nd grade if they were gay, and they had no idea what that was. Those gates, those words, those TV shows, the music that we hear, that we see, can be so detrimental to us in that area and open up this gate of promiscuity and of sexual confusion of what that even is. Because at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's not even something, and older, that's something that you're not even thinking about or that you have an understanding of. And unfortunately, those gates can be bombarded and broken open, and it can lead you on a road that you don't necessarily know how to travel. And so that was what that moment was for me. And I'm sure there are a lot of people watching whose moment was similar, or maybe even worse. Maybe it was your mother or your father who did something to you, or a brother or sister, or a neighbor, or a trusted friend, who broke in your doors too early, and then it unleashed this world of sex, sexuality, intimacy, attraction, things that as kids are never thought of. The second time that I would say I became even more curious, or maybe knowledgeable about something in regards to sex, sexuality, boy versus girl was between like the 7th and 8th grade. I remember I had a boyfriend, and 7th, 8th grade, little crushes or whatever. I was too scared to have sex, right? I was way too scared to have sex, but there were ways that we aroused each other, whether it was through touch. And at that point, I became aware of, oh, that's what's under there. You know how you don't really know like what the other person looks like without clothes? That was like my first awareness of what that is, and how that, when it rubs against me, makes me feel, right? That kind of like, oh, okay, so that's different. But it kind of freaked me out. So I was very terrified to go further than that. and I didn't during that time. And then I'll categorize the next part of my life as, kind of that third moment around the 8th, 9th grade. I became very intrigued with like sex scenes, right? They weren't the full on porn yet. I'm getting there. But it was just scenes off movies. Again, the gates, right? So whenever I'd see something on TV, it was arousing to me, right? At this point in life, around 13, 14, right? Starting to get really curious. And now that introduces masturbation. So that's where it started, around the 8th and 9th grade. And around the 9th, 10th grade is when I was actually introduced to Pornhub. I had never known what that was. Ever. I remember it was my first, I was in high school and I heard somebody say it. And I was like, what is that? And boy, did I find out, okay? It was, there was categories. There were different versions. There were different colors of people. There were, just everything. It was like a candy store of sex. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so much better than the little HBO movies that have like indecent scenes and PG-13 scenes. Like, this is a step up. Like, I've leveled up, right? And I'd say that porn addiction for me started probably when I was 14, 15 and lasted me well into my 20s. I'm 24 now. And I'd say it really hit a wall for me at 22. Around 22, I realized, like 21, 22, I realized I have a problem. Like, it's become too much. Like what I explained in the 10 things I don't want you to know about me video. I got to a point where I realized it had me and I didn't have it. And that was scary because and then it became a thing like this because I had relationships during that time and I was able to, do things with people. I stepped out of my shell a little bit more. I remember the first time I engaged sexually. It was just oral sex with someone. I was a junior in high school. That was like my very first time partaking in something like that. And then what that did was it gave me an excuse. Okay, Lord. Well, I'm not having sex with these people, but I'm doing this, right? We just do this. Or I'm not having sex, so I'm just gonna watch porn and get off really quick. That was my excuse because it just made sense, right? As long as I don't do that, everything else is permissible. And that wasn't the case. And I had to hit a wall, right? And realize, like, no, Rayla, you're making excuses for something that's really been a problem and an issue for you for years. And that truth needs to be realized. I think the biggest wall for me was, I believe I was just ending a pretty long relationship. And in that relationship, I had, of course, engaged sexually. I was still a virgin. I had not went through like penetration or anything. That was still off of the table. I still had my standards, right? But no, I didn't want to engage in that level. But I remember being so convicted at moments in that relationship. And even afterwards, realizing that there was a soul tie there. I think we talked about that briefly. Your will, your emotions, your intellect. I was still tied to this person, even though they were gone, because I had connected with them on such a level and so consistently over a long period of time that it became hard not to think about certain things. It became hard not to feel certain things when I would think about it. And so I'm like, okay, I'm single. Well, let me just go back to masturbation. But I remember one night in particular, I don't exactly know when, but it's a night I'll never forget. I had a dream, and the dream was I was laying in bed and I lifted up my sheet, and it was the same bed, everything. I lifted up my sheets and there was a scorpion crawling in my sheets, and I hate bugs. Okay, so I freaked out. Not only in the dream did I freak out, but I also freaked out waking up because it was that real. It was so real to the point where when I woke up, I actually looked under my sheets to make sure that there was nothing there. And so what that spoke to me in that moment, what the Holy Spirit spoke to me at that moment was, every time you give yourself over to masturbation, pornography, your desires, whatever you feel at the time, when you give yourself over to that, you're inviting this spirit into your bedroom. You're inviting this spirit into your bed. And I actually looked up, I never looked it up at the moment, but I looked it up before this video, and it's so crazy what a scorpion represents, okay? A scorpion represents evil, death, destruction, and unpleasantness. And this is what got me. In some cultures, it represents lust and sex. And so at that point, I became very unraveled. And I realized that it was a problem and that I had to relinquish that part of myself to God. I had to ask Him to come into my life and really deliver me and heal me from that. And even when I would slip, or even when I would make a mistake, I would still not lose the faith that this too shall pass. I had to take on that mentality. This too shall pass, and I'm going to try every day to make different decisions, every night to make different decisions. And even in the current relationship I am right now, the Lord has been dealing with me specifically to say, what I have for you is so great and so grand that you cannot allow temptation, you cannot allow your bodily organs and functions to be bigger than that. And so give me that part of your relationship. And this is why this series was so important, because as I'm talking and as I'm bringing all of this information to you, I am currently going through it myself, of being able to say, Lord, here is my sex life, take it. Lord, here is my body, take it, use it for your glory, because I know that time is coming. I know that glorious time with my husband is coming. But for right now, right here where I am, have it all, take it all. I will sacrifice that part of myself because I don't want to miss you because I'm so horny. I don't want to miss you because I'm okay with making excuses for something that I really should lay at the altar. And I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. I think in the first video I had mentioned that the Four Corners Project started from a relationship, a situationship you could say I was dealing with at the time. And I'm going to tell you what all happened and what really inspired the Four Corners Project, because it does have to do with sex, expectations of that in relationships or situationships. I had just gotten out of, again, a long relationship, and I was just in a different place, mentally, emotionally. There were a lot of things I was being casual about, but deep down in my spirit, I just knew I wanted better and I wanted different, and I didn't want to do it the same way that I had been doing it in the past. And so when I became newly single, right, single and mingling, I was working, and there was an old flame, you could say that, reemerge. You know how that happens. You get single and then everybody start coming back around. It was one of those situations, okay? And we hadn't really spoke or talked in years. It had been a while. And so, you get your hopes up and you're like, well, maybe, I've grown, they've grown, maybe this could work, right? And so they offered to pick me up from work. And mind you, when we were talking years prior to this, we were casual with things. There were things that we would do with each other, to each other, that became the relationship. That was the relationship. And unfortunately, those same expectations of, well, this is what we used to do, so we're going to continue to do the same thing, trickled down in 2 years later at that moment. And so he picked me up from work for a couple of days, and I remember he came in and I walked him back out to his car, and he just exposes himself to me in the car because this was something we used to do. And there was such a rebellion in me at that moment of, no, I'm not doing that. There was a fight in me because I was angry, but it was funny all at the same time because I'm like, no, I can't return to that. Like, we're still on that. That's still what this relationship is going to be about, is that. And I told him with somewhat of a smirk on my face, I'm sure there are many girls out there who would be willing to sit here and do this with you, but I'm no longer one of them. I know I used to be, and I'll take responsibility for that, but I've grown up. And I've had to come to a place of accountability for my actions. And we're not going there. And that was the last time we had really spoke. So as I'm getting out of the car and going back to my door, I hear the Four Corners Project. And the inspiration came for me from a place of, I'm so sick and tired of these relationships that are so focused and zoomed in on this one physical, temporary corner of being instantly gratified physically, sexually, that you can't focus on no other corner. We're good here, but when I ask you about your upbringing, it's a difficult conversation. When I ask you about your vision, it's a difficult conversation. When I ask about the friends and company you keep, it's a private and difficult conversation. But in this area over here, we're great. And so it made me want to really encapsulate all four corners of relationship. Because it's not just about sex. As much as, even though we're making this a month-long series, sex is a very, 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 very small part of a healthy relationship. It takes so much more than just sex. I'm not saying it's not in there, but it takes so much more than just sex in order to have a healthy, functioning relationship. And when sex becomes your relationship, or interacting physically, even if it's not penetration, whatever you're doing, if that is the relationship, that's not a relationship. If that's as far as you guys go, that's as far as your guys are gonna go. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing there, and it's not gonna last long because that part of you ain't gonna work forever anyway. So you gotta have more to go off of, and I think that's the place that I got to. I said, I need more to go off of. I can't just do this. So the Four Corners is designed to explore a person in their totality, not just their physicality. I want to know what family life is like. I want to know what friends you keep and how you choose them and how you choose your spouse or your relationships. I want to know how you feel about yourself. How do you see yourself? Do you believe in yourself? How do you talk to yourself? And I want to know, this is the smallest finger, but it's the most important. What is your relationship with God? Do you have a spiritual life? What is your belief system? Where are you what are you grounded in? Who are you grounded in? I need to know you in all 4 degrees. I can't just go based off of how good you make me feel. That's not going to be enough. Young people, it's not enough. Young people, I encourage you, teenagers, if you're watching, please take your time in growing up. Take your time in entering into relationships and entering into physical relationships, because you have all of your adult life to do it. And I cringe for our young people, because it's as if they are being coached and taught to be less and less innocent at a younger and younger age. Because I've walked past kids way younger than me, middle schoolers, and the things I'm hearing, I didn't even really know about at their age. I may have been curious, but there are pros out here who are 13. There are 6-year-olds out here talking and discussing about things that they have no clue of what that even is, what it means, the gravity or the weight of it. And we think it's cute, or we think it's normal. And it's unfortunate, because innocence being stripped younger and younger is turning into normal. That we are now like desensitized to it. Like, that's just how it is. When there was a time where 13-year-old girls looked like 13-year-old girls. Didn't know how to do their makeup, didn't know how to glamorize themselves, because they were 13, they were kids. But now we have kids walking around looking like adults, thinking like adults, because they're being exposed to adult material super early. And all the streaming platforms we got do not help. Netflix don't help. Hulu don't help. I'm calling everybody out. Prime don't help. Because they can just see it on any show. Commercials do not help. You gotta be careful what you let your kids watch now. When they on YouTube and they watching their little cartoons, make sure it's on the cartoon. And be careful of the cartoon. Because some stuff on there be a little suspicious. Like, we have to be diligent, especially if we are the covering of younger adults coming up, because they're going to hear it, they're going to see about it at some point in their journey, and you won't be there to stop it. Be intentional about what you let them watch. Be nosy. Do not let technology raise your children. Do not. And I wasn't even in that scenario. Technology did not raise me, but I was still able to access it. So if I was able to access it and it was only through TV, I didn't have no cell phone, I didn't have no iPad, I didn't have no computer, I didn't have none of that fancy stuff we got now. I just had my little 16-inch screen TV. So if I could just reach, if that was my only avenue, you guys see all the avenues kids have now. All the avenues teenagers have now. And it's important that we be involved in that. Having those conversations, having these conversations to be able to say, no, sex is beautiful. Sex was given to us by the Lord. It was instructed for us to replenish the earth. The way that we do that is with somebody else. It's with another man or another woman. But it is a responsibility. And it is a responsibility that we don't want to put on the shoulders of our young people or our young adult people, all my 18 through 30-year-olds, if we're not ready for it, or if it's not the person we're supposed to be with. So again, this video, the reason for it is because, one, I wanted you all to know that you are not alone. That you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not abnormal. And there's a lot of stories, I'm sure, that those watching have about this very topic and their experience with coming into that awareness for themselves and in their life. And another reason for this video is because we have a lot of people telling us what to do, but rarely do they share with us when they didn't do what they're telling us to do. You know what I'm saying? That's what the point of this is. Because you can look at me and think, oh wow, she's just so... No. I've had my experiences too. I've been through things too. I've gotten it wrong over and over and over and over and over again too. But through all of that, through the grace of God, I've made it to the point of being able to speak on it and talk about it. And not ashamed of the story. Not ashamed of where I've been. Speaking of shame and guilt, I encourage all those who are watching. I don't care where you've been, what you've been through, who you've been with, who you've slept with, who you regret involving yourself with, who you got children by. I don't care about none of that. Because God don't care about none of that. When you come to him, please, and I'm begging you, that shame and that guilt and that unworthiness, take it off. That I'm not good enough, take it off. That he won't accept me because, take it off. And I'm not using this time to throw a whole bunch of Bible verses at you. But I do remember a particular verse in this moment. Hebrews chapter 4, and I'm starting at the 15th verse. And it says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in every way as we are." Same things we've been tempted with, Jesus was tempted with. Yet he did not sin. Therefore, let us, talking about me and you, approach the throne of grace with boldness. Boldness. It's the opposite of shame, opposite of guilt, opposite of shyness, opposite of timidness. Boldness. Let us approach the throne of grace with boldness so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in time of need. Right? So you have the ability. First, you got to believe. That's just common sense. Right? You can't approach something that you don't even believe exists. So that's going to take you kind of hitting the gavel and saying, you know what, enough's enough. Lord, I want you to come into my life. That has to be your first go-to. That has to be your first thought. I believe. You got to be able to believe to approach the throne of grace. You got to believe the throne of grace exists, and therefore the one sitting on the throne of grace exists, okay? So once you believe, once you welcome him into your heart and confess, right? Romans 10:9-10. Once you have done that in your life and you made that declaration, you have the power and authority to approach the throne of grace with boldness, with whatever you got. The amazing part is, contradictory to religious beliefs and religious practices and what you may experience when you go into a church building, you don't have to get it all right before you go. Ain't that great news? Jesus is not like, hold on, boo, before you come to me, I'm gonna need you to get yourself right, and then we can have a meeting. No. People who come to the hospital are sick. I'm looking for sick people. When Jesus walked the earth, he looked for sick people. He dealt with every type of person you could think of, most of which were not in the church. Matter of fact, the ones in the church, he had some issues with. Ain't that crazy? Right? So he went out into the world. He went to the club. He went to the corner. He went to the drug house. And he said, I want those. I want those ones. I want the dirty ones. I want the ones that no one else wants. So as I said, it does not matter where you've been. It doesn't matter who you've been with. It does not matter how dirty you feel. He is a master detergent. He can get the stain out of anything. Matter of fact, he's already taken the stain away. It's just you haven't come into that realization yet. But when you start to walk with him and you start to hear, faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word of God, right? When your faith begins to be built, then you realize he was there the whole time. And to him, you're already clean. You've been clean the whole time, but you just had to journey it out. Hoping that this video allows you to do just that. I'm not a perfect person. Never will claim to be, regardless of what I talk about on here. Most of the time, the things I'm talking about are things that I'm going through with y'all. I'm still a work in progress. God is still working on me, but I've seen his mercy every night that I wanted to watch something and get off. Every time I engaged with someone that I knew I was not supposed to be with. He was there. I can look back in hindsight and say he still covered me. There were things that could have happened that didn't, because he was covering me for today. And now he's at that place of saying, okay, we're here. Now you got to submit fully. I know you've submitted in this area, but I need you to submit in this one too. And he's so patient. That's what I love about him. He'll just wait. He'll just wait on you until you get some act right. And be waiting whenever you're done with your foolishness. He did it for me. He's done it for me. So I'm just here to encourage you that he can do it for you. And you do not have to be ashamed. So I'm going to end it there. And I'm going to pray very quickly. Lord, we thank you. I thank you. I love you so much. Abba, I love you so much. Abba, Father, I love you. And I thank you for your grace and your mercy that pursues me every day, that finds me every day. I can't get away from it. I can't get around it. I can't escape it. I thank you for your embrace. I thank you for sustaining me through all the things I've been through in this area specifically. I thank you for those under the sound of my voice, Lord, and I pray that through my testimony, through my story, through being able to tell it unashamed, unwavering, that it would give them the boldness to face whatever their situation is and bring it to you and approach your throne boldly, without shame, without guilt. Those are things we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We know how to be guilty. We know how to be shameful. And we walk in that all too often. But you are a God who says, no, if you're going to come to me, come boldly. Because I already know what your situation looks like. And Lord, I thank you for being God. I thank you for being just that God. Not worried about the good and the evil of us, but just being the God of our lives, the God of our situation. And I pray that each and every one of us, both those watching and myself, will be able to grow in this area and to really be able to conquer it and not have it conquer us, and it not display itself in the way that I'm sure Satan and all of his devices would love for it to be displayed in our lives, to where it overtakes us beyond a point of return. And so, Lord, I thank you. I honor you. I give you all glory and all praise. In Jesus' mighty name I do pray. Amen. So y'all, that's it. That is it for this week. Ooh, y'all, I'm so gassy. For week 3. Week 3. Excuse me. And I'm hoping y'all are enjoying this. I really, really am. And I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am, because it's teaching me a lot. The Lord has even revealed things, as I've said earlier, to me in this area of my life, and I'm so thankful. He could let me be out there doing whatever I want without any regards to him, without any regards to my life, my body. But because I'm his baby, because I'm his child, he's like, boundaries, parameters. I got something for you that you can't be letting all this into your spirit. You can't be getting your soul all twisted up. You know, you gotta hear me on this. I'm trying to instruct you. I'm trying to guide you like any good father would his children. So I'm just so thankful. I thank you guys so much for your support. Y'all come back and join me next week. I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily know how we're gonna wrap this up, but I have a feeling it's gonna be a good one. So again, turn your notifications bell on, like, comment, subscribe, please share. Please share. I feel like this content is good for anybody, truthfully. And you know, if you're gonna hear it anyway, hear it like this. Hear it with some truth. Hear it with some positivity, some joy, some light at the end of the tunnel, right? So I love you guys. I'm praying for you. Continue to pray for me as I go forward. And I will see you guys very soon. This is your girl Rayla signing off with Let's Talk, where we encourage, empower, and enlighten. We keep it lit. We stay enlightened. I'll see you guys soon.
Let's talk. Let's talk.